Okay, we are live, folks. And just checking our feed. Yep, we are live on both Facebook and YouTube. So if you don't know, if you're watching this, then obviously you've got one of the live feeds. So you're either at the Fright Lounge page on Facebook or at our YouTube page, which is youtube.com/user/Uncle Death One. And please feel free to leave comments about the films we're going to talk about tonight, because we'd love to hear people's input. So anyways, without further ado, I am Re-Gor, and this is episode 10 of Fright Lounge, the show in which the best horrorologists in town will discuss horror in depth and get a conversation going for seasoned horror viewers, as well as helping to introduce newbies to the horror genre. As I said, I'm Re-Gor from Then Is Now podcast, the East Meets the West podcast, and our other lounge, the Cult Movie Lounge.
I'm Bill Van Ryn from fanzine Drive-In Asylum, which the brand new issue just came out.
Awesome.
It's number 24. And I also host a weekly live streaming thing similar to Fright Lounge called the Drive-In Asylum Double Feature.
Excellent, excellent. And joining us once again today is Charles Rosenay. Glad you could be here, Charles.
So glad to be here. Charles Rosenay, all the way from Transylvania via Connecticut, author of the book of Top 10 Horror Lists, author of the True Ghost Stories of Connecticut, and also producer of the Dracula Tours to Transylvania.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And real quick, and we'll do it again at the end of the show, but while we've got people here at the beginning, why don't you give out your contact information or your website information?
Yeah, if someone wants to come with us on a Dracula tour to Transylvania, it's www.dractours.com, DRACTOURS. You can only come if you've got a well-coiffed mustache that you comb perfectly. Otherwise, you have to fill out other kind of application forms. And for the book, for this great horror book, it's Book of Top 10 horrorlists.com, and it's the number 10, Book of Top 10 Horror Lists. And then we do paranormal conventions and all that good stuff, but that's so much later on in the year that we don't even have to promote that. We'll do that at a future show.
Awesome. All right, folks, so today we are going to discuss 3 lesser known horror films, which as of this recording, it's early January, I don't even know what the date is. They are all available on Tubi. What?
After the Christmas you had, that's not surprising.
Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, all these films are available on Tubi. Hopefully those watching will have had a chance to check them out beforehand, because I did put that out in the invite. So the films we're going to cover are The Bride from 1973, starring Robin Strasser, Last House on Dead End Street, also from 73, although that's in debate, and I'll bring that up when we talk about that film, and The Children from 1980. So 3 interesting films, and Bill, you picked these films, so why don't you pick the first one that you want to talk about?
Oh, we could just go in the order that you said, and we'll start with The Bride.
Okay.
Which, as you said, was released in 1973. That was the first time it was in theaters. And as we will learn when Roger puts up the ad images, I'm not sure when you want to do it, but
yeah, I'm doing it right now.
There were several titles for The Bride. So if you didn't see it as The Bride, you may have seen it as The House That Cried Murder. And you may have also seen it as Last House on Massacre Street. In addition, there was another title or 2 when it was released on VHS. One was called No Way Out. Maybe I'm thinking of Last House on Massacre Street as the other VHS title. Anyway, there we go. There's the poster for the original release, which was called The Bride. And it gives you a little clue as to what's going to happen in the movie. And there's Robin Strasser. What soap was she on, Roger?
She was on One Life to Live. If you the color picture on the right, that's the character Dorian Lord. So yeah, so that's her big claim to fame. She was also in a couple of other soaps, but we can get into that when we
so the soap should have been called One Short Bride's Life to Live.
Right. Oh man. And then we've got this I lifted from the internet. This is these are some lobby cards for when the film came out. So you've got, the bride being all
Beautiful.
creepy.
That one that looks orange, it's actually red in the film, and it's very Mario Bava-esque.
Yes.
There's a scene where, he has this, as you can tell there, like she's leaning down and looking down into an opening, but you can't really tell that in the movie. It's really interesting the way they film it. Very Italian.
Yeah. 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 I definitely got the Italian horror vibe on this film. And of course, the bride with blood on her. And then that's Ellen. Was it Ellen or Helen? I think it was Ellen.
Helen.
Helen. Okay.
That's Irma Jean Saraceni,
Right.
or Iva Jean, not Irma. Sorry. Iva Jean Saraceni. She's from Pittsburgh.
Oh, wow.
She's a Pittsburgh actor, and she was in Creepshow. She was Billy's mother. She was married to Tom Atkins in the film.
Okay. Yeah. I remember that. Wow.
She's the one like, well, you big bear. That was her. She does a lot of stage work in the Pittsburgh area. She's very well known here. And I'm not really quite sure how she got hooked up to do The Bride, because this movie was made in Connecticut. And somehow she found out about this gig and went to Connecticut to make this film.
Wow.
She's still around. She still does stage stuff.
Yeah, she's still working. At least she was before COVID. I'm not sure about now.
And he is too. I don't have the actor's name in front of me, but he's still acting.
I
What
can't
a
think of
jerk.
his. Oh yeah, he's a very nasty person in this movie.
Yeah.
And that's another reason I love it, truthfully, is because the characters, every single character in this movie, the motivation is just from Mars. You don't know why the hell they're doing what they're doing, what would cause them. Like this guy, the basic plot is that this guy gets married to Robin Strasser, and he works for her father, and she's this spoiled rich girl that gets everything she wants. And one of the things she reveals to him early in the film is this strange house that she built in the middle of nowhere, just this really weird looking house. And she wanted to fix up the house and have them move in there. And she marries this guy, and on his wedding day, Iva Jean Saraceni, his ex-girlfriend Helen, shows up at the wedding. He takes her upstairs into a private bedroom and starts making out with her. And of course, Robin Strasser walks in and has a total mommy dearest meltdown over it. It's fabulous. And she stabs the shit out of him with a pair of scissors, and she just runs down into the wedding covered in blood.
Oh man. It was just, this was a good movie because it was so, I didn't know what to expect actually going into it. So I was pleasantly surprised by just how crazy it is. And we'll get into that further. So why don't you tell us about this particular one?
What, this ad?
Yes.
This is from the original run of the film. And as you can see, there's part of the weird house that she built that has these strange angles. And it's like, almost brutalist. I'm not really sure what style you would consider that, but it's a very strange brutalist type house. And the film promises us an axe murder. It kind of delivers one, kind of. It's definitely not a gore fest. Even though there are some gory moments, they didn't hold back on the blood in this movie. It's not an axe murder film. So
Right. I love the tagline there: a marriage made in heaven and a honeymoon in hell. This was PG. I guess it was.
Yeah. There's nothing really that R-rated in this movie. PG was a lot more lenient in the 70s.
Right.
But you could get away with a lot in a PG film, and there was nothing that really pushed it over the line in The Bride.
And this,
Guys, I think all those Connecticut theaters are gone.
I'm sure.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. This looks like from Connecticut, huh?
It's from Hartford.
Yeah.
And that's where it was filmed. I'm surprised the ad doesn't gloat about that.
It should have in that market. Certainly, it says Golden Gate Film, which you would think is a San Francisco production.
The production could have been from somewhere else, but they filmed it in Connecticut.
Yeah. Okay, then we'll go to the next one here.
This is just a grainier version of the same image, pared down a little bit. I just love the way ads like this look. This is kind of my thing. This is
This is
why I started
great.
doing a fanzine.
Oh
And
yeah.
This is
and
great. I love the family that brought their kid to Fantasia and accidentally went to Cinema 2 instead of Cinema 1.
oh, there we go. World premiere. That's why I included. It's filmed on location in Connecticut.
Oh, see that?
What? Why am I not seeing that?
There's another great tagline. David's been dying to marry into the family. After the ceremony, he may be dying to get out. That's great.
It's all true.
Two great taglines that would have been great on AM radio, you know?
Oh yeah.
I think there probably were some radio spots for this,
Sure.
which is always exciting. Remember when they used to advertise scary movies on the radio?
Oh yeah.
Loved it.
I want to do a show about radio spots and play some.
They would come out on 45s
Yeah.
Yep.
and be sent to the stations. I remember having one for the movie It's Alive,
Oh,
where there's
wow.
only one thing wrong with the baby. It's
It's
alive.
alive. Oh, the poor Davises. They didn't sign on for that when they wanted to have a
Davises,
kid.
no.
Um, this is brilliant because it's paired with one of my favorite Andy Milligan movies, Blood.
Did that go by different titles?
I don't think so.
Okay, because I don't think I've seen that then.
It was I think this was just Blood when it played theatrically. I'm not sure what they called it on home video.
And look at you
But-
get a bonus film, The Devil's Reign.
Oh, fabulous.
Ernest Borgnine, John Travolta,
William
William Shatner.
John Travolta.
Right?
Blink and you miss him, John Travolta.
Right. I will never forget when this was playing on TV before I had cable, my friend did, and his parents would go shopping on a Sunday and they'd leave him home and he'd watch the $1 Million Movie on WOR and he was watching The Devil's Reign. And he calls me up and he's telling me the movie. He would do this all the time. And he's like, oh my God, Ernest Borgnine has William Shatner and they're dragging him up this hill. Oh my God, Ernest Borgnine just turned into the devil. He's going to kill William Shatner.
That's like football commentary.
Yeah.
So you haven't seen Blood, either of you?
No.
I'm not even familiar with it.
Oh my God. It's like, Andy Milligan movies look like they were made for about $10 a piece. And it's a monster rally film where they look like normal people most of the time, of course, because how expensive would that be to have someone in costume all the time? So, but it's this bickering couple and they move into this house in Long Island, which is where it was filmed, of course, which is where Andy Milligan lived. And but it's a period piece. It's set like in the 1700s or it's very early. And these people that were introduced to in the movie end up being the son of Larry Talbot, the Wolfman,
Oh, wow.
and the daughter of Dracula.
Oh,
And they're like this bickering couple, and she has to have, of course, blood to keep her alive, or else she'll shrivel up into nothing. Like the first time you see her, she's a melting corpse in it, but they fix her by getting her blood. And there's also a subplot with a hunchback assistant, and they're needed to grow these carnivorous plants in the basement of their house because the plants help with Larry Talbot's condition. It's all very confusing. That's Andy Milligan for you.
Interesting. It's starting to ring a bell. I wonder if maybe, 1973, it's possible I did see this one in the backseat of my parents' car at the drive-in. I'm not sure.
It's kind of like his movies are like early John Waters, except with a horror slant.
Right.
Like Pink Flamingos, Female Trouble. That's about the level of an Andy Milligan production.
well, The
Right.
Bride certainly wasn't convoluted or confusing.
No.
You weren't at any point thinking, oh, wait, I don't guess what's going on. It was a real cool, clear path. And tell me if you agree with me. It was like reading an EC comic or
Yes.
Yeah.
or Eerie or any of those illustrated comic books, which would have that little, I don't want, do we give away endings? But anyway, it seemed like that would have been that last page of the comic book. And it's like, damn,
Yeah.
of course, which you kind of guess, right? Even before it's revealed. But, just the fact that it even, gave us that extra, part that needed a reveal, and that was its version of a twist. I thought that made the movie.
Oh yeah, yeah. And another thing too that I loved about it was the groovy 70s soundtrack. That was just right away. I was like, all right, I'm home. This is awesome.
Oh my God. Yeah, I was peeing myself the first time I saw it because I was like, wow, I'm a sucker for 70s movies where there's a love montage, where there's a happy couple and they're both beautiful and they're walking through a field and it's sunlit and they're smiling. They are madly in love with each other. And there's a groovy song playing over it. That happens not once, but twice in The Bride.
Yeah.
With two different women, same guy, two different women.
It's funny because it makes every time I see scenes like that, it makes me think of Leslie Nielsen and Priscilla Presley doing the love montage in the Naked Gun. All right, and then there's this one.
Aha. Now it's getting interesting. This is from 1982 when they reissued the movie as The House That Cried Murder.
Well, we see why, because they were going for The House Where Death Lives, The House That Cried Murder, The House of Exorcism. They were going for these, double, triple feature drive-ins that had a connection or a theme. And by just changing the title and throwing in, a house, all of a sudden it was easy for the studio or the distribution company to package it, and theaters would buy it more aptly than buying, two films that may not have had a connection.
The House Where Death Lives, that doesn't ring a bell either with me. I wonder if that was a different title too as well.
It was also known as Delusion.
Oh, okay. Isn't that an Andy Milligan film?
No.
Okay.
No. I can't think of the title of the Andy Milligan film, but that was not an Andy Milligan film.
Depraved.
Yes, thank you. Another D word.
Yeah. Oh man, but it looks like David Hayward is in this, and I'm really quickly I'm looking it up because I'm fairly. What did you say the other title was? Delusion. Yeah.
Delusion.
David Hayward, is that who I think it is? I'll do this real quick. I know, folks. No, it's not who I thought it was. Okay, so then that's an amazing triple feature. Although House of Exorcism, of course, is the bastardized version of Lisa and the Devil. But I could see why they would put the house movies together, like you said, Charles.
Yeah.
We've got this one.
Yeah.
This one was where it was called Last House on Massacre Street also.
Yeah, this was also 1982. And this was in the summer of 82, because that's when Poltergeist was in theaters. And they marketed it in a few cities as a midnight movie. Everywhere it showed as Last House on Massacre Street, it was a midnight film.
Huh.
And it's interesting when you pull it up on Tubi, it certainly says The Bride, and it took me, a few times till I found it. But the first frame of the title says Last House on Massacre Street, even though it's listed and it runs and it's streaming as The Bride.
Right.
Yeah. Well, someone did a restoration. I forget which company. Maybe it was Code Red. I think Code Red put it out as Last House on Massacre Street in a Blu-ray, not really, completely restored, but a nice HD print that had a little grindhouse grain on it. And that's the one I think is on there. So that's why it has that title.
Okay, yeah. And then I found this one in the Boston Globe from the date that was it like November 7th, 1973, I think. And this is the Showcase Cinemas in Woburn showing The Bride, along with Jeremy, which I've never heard of, MASH, and Walkin' Tall.
It looks like a legit movie. It doesn't look like a grade Z drive-in movie when it's the first one with MASH and Walking Tall. Look at that.
Jeremy is one of those 70s doom films about Jeremy's dying and he falls in love. It's all very sad.
Oh, like love story kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, see, Jeremy should have met the bride and they would have lived happily ever after, but only for a short time.
Yeah,
Right.
for maybe another couple weeks.
Yeah.
The showcase in Woburn just recently closed down, I believe. I saw a lot of movies there. A friend of mine worked there too, got me into a lot of movies. All right, and then I found another one. This is I didn't get a chance to cut this one up like I wanted to, but also from Boston, same date, same newspaper. I mean, the same exact date. So it's, the next page over.
Mhm.
But you've got, they're pretty much
Wow.
showing the same, although American Graffiti's there. And then Here Comes the Bride.
I remember clipping that one from the Astor. You just scrolled past it, but it literally is just The Bride. See right there in the upper right corner.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
I love that. How the letter I is the groom.
That's
Mm.
that's so cool. And maybe that was why I kept it in here. You think, yeah, because I don't see it anywhere else here. Although it's down here, it's the Bride and The Blind Dead. Wow. The Natick Drive-In. That would have been an awesome double feature.
With the Plaza Twin Drive-In too.
Yeah.
Look, they were showing Twitch of the Death Nerve on the other screen. That was a Hallmark releasing double feature split across those two screens. The Blind Dead and Twitch of the Death Nerve were both issued by Hallmark releasing.
Really?
But you mentioned how they changed the titles to, they were going for a House trilogy, House of Exorcism, House that Cried Murder,
Yeah.
Yeah.
House Where Evil Dwells. That was a copy of Hallmark releasing, because they did Last House on the Left, and they used to retitle movies and package them sensationally
Right.
that way. So I'm sure that's why they were going for a House trilogy, because that's what Hallmark would do. They would show Last House on the Left, Don't Look in the Basement, Don't Open the Window, all like parts they had. And these were all retitles, like totally made up names, except
Yeah.
for Last House on the Left.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, Stoneham. That's where I grew up. I remember the Stoneham Cinema. Saw quite a few movies there. And then Saugus, I lived there for when I was married to my first wife. I love looking at these. This is so cool. And I think, there's this
Ooh.
one. Did
Oh,
you?
it's another one from the Astor. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't throw rice. Just scream your head off. That's awesome.
They just came up with great taglines for this one.
They carried that Scream Your Head Off tagline over into House That Cried Murder too. Oh, and by the way, the person who wrote The Bride, John Grissomer, he also wrote that movie Blood Rage.
Oh, okay.
And in Blood Rage, there's a scene where someone goes by a drive-in and they're showing the House That Cried Murder.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
that's great.
This is so cool. And I think, yep, that's it. So we'll switch back and stop sharing for now. Call up my notes here. But yeah, this movie, like I said, I walked in not knowing. I love watching a movie when I have no idea what's going to happen in it. I couldn't find too much on the director, Jean-Marie Pellissier. I don't know if he's done anything else.
Probably not his real name.
Yeah.
Probably a different director who did a bunch of other, lower level stuff, and just, hey, let's put this fancy name on and maybe it'll add a little credibility to the film.
Right.
No, that is his name. Yeah.
It really is, yeah. Did he do other stuff?
Yeah, he made that film Rosebud in 1975. And what else did he do? Well, The Bride was the only one that he directed. He was mainly the production manager, and he also was like, assistant director. The Bride was the only movie that he ever was the director for.
Right.
But
Okay.
he worked on a couple of others. That really was his name though.
I'm gonna.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I watched them kind of in the order of when they came out, these three films that we're doing. And as we went, each movie got progressively better as far as quality. Each movie, the soundtrack got, better as we went. But this one was good. There's so many films called The Bride. And I was just afraid that we were doing the Sting one. And it was good seeing one that probably played not only in these drive-ins and in these theaters that we're looking at, but probably played on 42nd Street at the time as part of, the grindhouse type movies.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. So this is the these are the photos from IMDb, which there's the hot chick on the bike there. And
This is for the children.
oh, wrong movie.
This is
I would
Hit the
recognize that
Bride.
butt anywhere.
There we go.
This is good. This is it.
And he was also in Cheech and Chong's Up in Smoke, and one of the Enter the Ninja films. I think it was Revenge of the Ninja. Not sure. And there's Robin Strasser wasn't in this a whole heck of a lot. I was surprised that she's gone for like 2/3 of the film.
Yeah, but what she does do on camera is pretty amazing. I heard she doesn't like to talk about this movie.
Really interesting.
Oh, that's too bad. She was probably, it's not probably her level of theater, and maybe she's a little ashamed of it. I remember there's who else was like that? Theodore Bickel was in the movie 200 Motels. Frank Zappa and Ringo and whoever. And I brought it up to him and I said, my favorite thing you ever did was 200 Motels. And he wanted to just walk away because he was proud of everything but that.
And there's Helen.
Oh, that's one of the greatest scenes in the movie, where she walks up the stairs and she's confronted at the top of the stairs by, you can kind of see it, the wedding dress that Robin Strasser wore is like pinned up over a doorway with a skull mask in the middle of it. It's really creepy.
Yeah. Yeah, this movie gets real trippy at certain points. It was funny because my wife and I would crack up a couple times, like going, what the heck is going on here? But I think it was unintentionally funny, but it was still creepy nonetheless.
Yeah, it was creepy and humorous at the same time. And I mean, just the silliness of this weird house, what happened? Did one of the directors or the production people, come across it? Maybe they owned it. They said maybe it was built, the whole concept was built around the house, because it wasn't a necessity to the film, but it started off there and then it came back there.
Yeah. And like, there's a shot of the house there. And one thing that like when I first saw it, it made me think, contemporary 70s was the design. But I think it's like you said, Bill, it's more than that. It's, what did you call it? Not grunge. Brutalist. Yeah.
It just looks like a monument. It's very strange looking. And I didn't believe for 1 second that Robin Strasser's character would have created this house, but never mind about that.
And then there he is being all happy, and that must be the Spanish.
Oh, nice. Oh, I love the still. Look at the. Yeah. Is he getting air on that? Is he vertical with the hatchet?
I don't know.
Look at that.
It looks like it. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Lobby card people.
Well, and folks, this movie's 50 years old, so
yeah,
if you haven't seen it by now.
We're not gonna apologize for talking about the ending.
Right. Oh, and there's the same thing. Oh, interesting. They had the lobby cards that I had in slightly different order. And then we got some more, which we saw those. There's another version of the poster. She's got the scissors in her hand. I love that.
It is very EC Comics.
Scream Katso Jos Uskalat.
Or as we like to say in America, the bride.
And there's the dad too. He's another character that we couldn't figure out what the hell he was up to, because like right after she stabs her husband and takes off, he has lunch with him. And it's like, what is he up to?
Yeah, that was just part of the whole thing. Nobody's reaction in the movie made any sense.
I get it.
Which is what made it stick in my head. That's why I like it.
I get it. He was in on it. The groom, did bad to the bride. Dad wants to somehow get revenge, but he doesn't want the groom disappearing. He wants to keep him at arm's length. So if he keeps him in his business, he knows where he is, And he knows
Yeah.
that when the time comes for his daughter to, get revenge, that, it kind of makes sense if you think of it in a term that, well, let's make it make sense.
Yeah.
What is House on the Edge of the Park?
That's go ahead, Bill, because I know that one.
Well, Ruggero Deodato made that movie, who unfortunately passed away last week.
Yeah.
And he's, of course, the director of Cannibal Holocaust,
Yeah.
Cut and Run, a couple of other, slasher type films. What was the one? He made like a Friday the 13th ripoff slasher film with this
Oh.
killer known as the Shaman. I can't think of the title. Camping del Terror was the Italian name. Well, anyway, I'm getting off track here. House on the Edge of the Park is one of his films, starring David Hess from Last House on the Left.
Right.
And Giovanni Riccardo Radici. I got his middle name from Giovanni Radici. Yeah, it's not quite like Last House on the Left, but it's pretty brutal. Most of Ruggero Deodato's films were like that. They had a real nasty edge.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He did an Italian Poliziotteschi movie that I love. We covered it on Then Is Now, which is called Live Like a Cop, Die Like a Man.
Yeah.
It's just this ultra violent, cop movie. It's really good. I'm just looking over here at his thing. He did Deathcember. I don't know if that's the one you were thinking of, or Phantom of Death, Dial Help. He's got a bunch of them. Body Count.
Body Count is the one I was thinking of.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll have to check that one out. So, all right, let's continue on with the pictures here. Oh, there we go. No Way Out. That's like not even, well, I mean, I guess that could be Helen, I suppose.
I don't know what movie they were watching. Yeah, there's the title, No Way Out.
Yeah. Interesting.
Uh,
And then we've got the Scream one again. That must have been the German title.
it must be the German VHS release.
Yeah, looks like it. And The House That Cried Murder. That's a great one. You can really see him there.
Yeah, totally spoiling the ending. Right on the cover.
And then we're back to the
I
beginning.
guess they're hoping we would forget we ever saw that when we walked into the theater.
Right.
Yeah, you don't know. He might have been having one of those days where he was chopping up some tenderized meat, and it might not have been the actual. Yeah, I'm always trying to give an excuse to why they do the things they do, but yeah, that kind of gives it away.
That's hilarious. Yeah. So Arthur Roberts, who played David, was also in Revenge of the Ninja in '83 and Cheech and Chong Up in Smoke in '78, among many others. The guy that played the father there, John Beale, he was on Dark Shadows, the TV series. He was in a lot of stuff. He was in The Vampire from 1957 and The Legend of Lizzie Borden, the TV movie with Elizabeth Montgomery.
Montgomery, sure.
And Amityville 3D, which I think I've blocked that movie. I know I saw it in the theater, but I don't remember anything from it.
Oh, that's probably my favorite one.
Really?
That whole dreadful series. Yeah. I think those movies are awful, but especially the first one.
Oh, I find the first one terrifying.
The first one I just thought was so boring. The second one's good. Amityville 2, The Possession. It's so dirty and sleazy. But Amityville 3D was pretty fun. It was stupid, but it was no more stupid than any of the other ones.
And
just my opinion.
I'm gonna have to revisit them now too. So, and as you mentioned, Bill, Ivogene Saraceni was in Saraceni was in Creepshow. She was also in George Romero's Night Riders in '81.
Yeah.
I thought this was funny. I found on Wikipedia they had a Los Angeles Times review from a lady named Linda Gross, and she says, "Director Police elicits gloom and good performances from Miss Strasser, Miss Saraceni, Beale, and Roberts. The Bride has a lonely, nightmarish quality, and the really scary sequences are provided by special effects and Jeffrey Stevenson's creative photography, not from the contrived, hollow narrative." I think if you're
That's
looking
dead
for
on.
narrative, this is not the film to look.
It's bare
Guys,
bones.
it could have been a night gallery short also, but you know
Yeah.
what? It was fun. I recommend it, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely, if you know, like I said, it got me in the wicked 70s mood when it started and the music was playing.
I
And
watched it with this bride, and this bride loved it.
oh, good.
Right?
I guess when they submitted it to the MPAA for a rating, the title was "The House That Cried Murder to the Bride," which I don't know, but just touching on the soundtrack one more time. The guy who did the music was Peter Bernstein, and he also worked on the soundtrack for Ghostbusters. In fact, I think he wrote the song "Cleaning Up the Town," which is a fun song. I enjoy that soundtrack, so have to check out, see what else he's done.
Well, the soundtrack for The Bride is brilliant. It's got that acid rock sound to it, like
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, the movie's a little disjointed, but it more than makes up for it with these trippy scenes that are like especially like when the main character there, David, is he, for like the first time he starts tripping out for some reason. It ends up being a dream, I think, right?
Mhm.
yes.
And so at that point you're like, what the hell's going on? Oh, okay, he was dreaming. But then he really starts to lose his mind when the bride is like not only tortured Helen, but now she's torturing him too.
They both have nightmares. Helen and David both have a nightmare about Robin Strasser.
Right.
So she's like visiting them in their dreams. She was the original Freddy.
Oh, there you go. So, all right, you guys. So, Charles, would you recommend this movie?
I would. You know, in those days, I used to get these type of films along with hopefully the next one we're going to talk about, and like Blood-Sucking Freaks, and I would get them on VHS, and I would order them online, and it would be like 3 films per video, and fans would send it. And then I'd get it and I would not be able to watch it because the quality was so bad, so crappy, so distorted. But I remember wanting to see this back then and not ever seeing it till now. And I'm glad I did, and I would recommend it.
Awesome. Bill?
Well, definitely. This is one of my all-time faves.
Oh, wow. My co-host on the Coat Lounge just texted me. He said he was friends with the director of Last House on Dead End Street, which we were about to talk about now. So, all right. So let's get this up on the screen here. And I lost my brain here. All right. I'm going to share screen. Boom. And there we go. Last House on Dead End Street. Now, Bill, you had recommended this to me a while ago, because I think we were, planning ahead what we wanted to talk about. And this was you sent me these 3 movies, or maybe we were talking about something and you recommended it. So I watched it and I found it unbelievably disturbing and depressing.
Yeah.
But I did go back and rewatch it recently for the show, and same opinion. It's like, why don't you talk about it a little bit?
It's like one of those legendary movies that you hear about. Oh, there's this movie and these people really die in it, like snuff films. Of course, it is about the making of a snuff film, and ironically, people thought it was a snuff film when they saw it. And at some point, they had to prove that the cast members were still alive because it was so convincing that they were murdered on screen. So yeah, there's something dangerous and off about this movie. And people talk a lot about, I mean, I probably would never want to watch it again. There is something very theatrical about it, which kind of takes you out of the violence. Whereas Last House on the Left, that movie, I honestly never want to watch that one again, because it's like you're watching something that's really happening. I didn't get that feeling from Last House on Dead End Street, which was originally called The House of the Cuckoo Clocks, and Cuckoo Clocks of Hell, I think what was the original title. Um, but when they first released it to theaters, it was called The Fun House.
Yes.
And this was years, of course, before Toby Hooper. It was in 1977 when it finally found theatrical distribution.
Okay, because that was a question I had at the top of the show. So it was made in 73, but it didn't get released in 73?
Right. Nobody actually put it out. It only played some film festivals.
Okay.
Where it got, I think it got favorable responses at those, because there is something arty about it too. It's a very, very loose narrative. You
Yeah.
don't really always understand what's going on in the film if all you're paying attention to is the dialogue in the film. There's a lot, you have to read a lot into it. So it is challenging in that way, but it makes it a little more like an art house type film.
Yeah. Charles, what did you think of this movie?
I think it didn't know if it wanted to be a porn movie or a horror movie. I mean, this was a very much like some of the bad porn movies that didn't go over the line, with penetration and with all, maybe Andy Warhol saw this and said, I can incorporate some of the taken out of the guts parts and put it in my, my Frankenstein or my, I think that it did think that it was artsy. And I think that it could have gotten away with showing in art, houses, but I didn't like it. I mean, I didn't think there was anything appealing about it. None of the actors, certainly none of the writing, the music was abominable. But if you like the cheesiness of the music, you could say no, it was fun. It was the opposite of a fun house.
Yeah,
It didn't.
absolutely.
They had to change the name because of Toby Hooper's Funhouse, which came out
Yeah.
at the same time, right, Bill?
No, this came out like 4 years before Toby
Way
Hooper's
before, yeah.
movie came. This came out it played theaters as the Funhouse in 77. It started playing as the Last House on Dead End Street in 79.
Oh, okay.
And it was funny because when it was playing in grindhouses, it's where it got this reputation as depicting actual murders
Mhm.
on camera. And because there was nobody in the film that was accurately named. Everybody used pseudonyms.
Right.
So you really couldn't find the people that made this movie. And the distributors, of course, encouraged that, because that only gave them more, helped them sell more tickets. So it
Right.
gained a reputation because of that. But everyone can relax. The actors are all fine.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, they lived.
And that's not the first time we've heard about that. Wasn't it Cannibal Holocaust where
Yeah.
Deodato had to like prove that he didn't really kill somebody in the movie?
Yeah, I think it was that one I was thinking about the proof. This one, the director, whose name was actually Roger Watkins, he didn't even know that the movie came out on the big screen. Like, he was just, recognized in public one day as being the guy from that movie that I saw, where I thought it was a snuff film. So he didn't even know that the movie had come out.
Bill, do we know where this was filmed?
It
Well,
was on this college campus. It was an abandoned building. I have it in my notes, but I can't switch over to them at the moment. But
We know what state is what I was going for. Do we know if it was an East Coast, the West Coast, anything like that?
let's see if I can switch over without screwing up the. Oh, good.
I'm trying to find it on IMDb. That was filmed in New York,
It was.
Oneonta, New York.
Yeah, and it was at the State University there.
Do we have any theater ads from any New York papers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Bill, I'm gonna switch over to that. Where are we?
No, I didn't include a New York ad.
No.
I'm not sure if I found it playing in New York.
Had to be on 42nd Street. I mean,
Sure.
this epitomized the films that were on that street at the time.
Where is the Sinking Spring drive-in from that we have up on the screen here?
Sinking Spring, PA.
Oh, okay. It's a terrible name.
Yeah, it's named that because of a sinkhole.
Oh,
A
geez.
sinkhole opened up right on the property, which would make me nervous about going to watch a movie there, frankly. There was a lighting pole that was set up to illuminate the exit for when people were leaving, and the lighting pole just sank into a sinkhole and disappeared forever. They never
God.
were able to retrieve it.
Wow. And this came out, well, it was made a couple years before the movie called Snuff, which was that was 75. And that's what I was thinking of when I first walked into this. Was I was thinking, oh, is this that movie? But I looked it up at the time and it wasn't. That was the Michael Findlay film.
Snuff, yeah, but it was actually a movie made by somebody else. And I think it was from 1970.
Okay. Well, it's got Horatio Fredrickson and Simon Nocturne listed as co-directors, at least on
Yeah,
IMDb for Snuff.
it was from a movie called The Slaughter from 1971.
Oh, okay.
And they inserted new footage at the beginning and the end, I think, of the slaughter, and probably edited a bunch of stuff out of it too.
And getting back to the ad that we have up on the screen, it also played with The Night Evelyn Came Out of the Grave. That's a good double feature.
Ooh, yes.
Which
just
you
wondered-
think would have been the A film, but this was probably a re-release for Evelyn and a first run for Funhouse.
Right. Which this tagline here does not, or description does not, is not anything like the film. It says a gothic tale of a house that turned fun and games into an orgy of agony and death. No, it was the dude that turned it into an orgy of agony and death.
Only slightly. They got the agony right.
Yeah. But it wasn't the house that caused it. That's kind of funny. They have this thing, especially back then, about the house movies, you know?
Yeah.
All right. And then we've got, here we go. It's only a movie. Wow, they totally stole that from whatchamacallit.
From home, that was Hallmark releasing that popularized it. They didn't invent it. It went back pretty far, but most people remember it from Last House on the Left because they just did a marketing blitz with that, and there were radio spots with people chanting, "It's only a movie, only a movie."
Keep telling yourself it's only a movie.
Plus, it's playing with The New House on the Left. Which one is that?
That is the Night Train Murders.
Oh, okay. We just talked about that.
Yeah. AKA Xmas Massacre.
Right.
AKA Last Stop on the Night Train.
Yep.
There are a couple other, and Hallmark also, they put that movie out too. And they would ship prints to, they devised this ad campaign that said Last House Part 2. And they made it look like you were going to see a sequel to Last House on the Left, when really the movies that they would ship to the theaters, it was either Night Train Murders or Mario Bava's Twitch of the Death Nerve.
Oh, wow.
So it didn't really matter which theater. They were just going to call it Last House Part 2.
I love, though, on this ad here, it's contradicting itself because it says it's back. The evil that had you screaming, it's only a movie. First run. If it's first run, how could it be back?
That's great.
The evil's back, Roger.
Oh,
It's
okay.
The evil is back. Yeah.
Remember when the evil is gone? The evil is gone from here.
The evil is gone. Oh, wasn't that the most recent Halloween film?
That's what Dr. Loomis screams in the original Halloween. But yeah,
That's right, yeah.
This evil was back.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. So we're going to switch over to the IMDb pictures here. So we've got the DVD Tartan Grindhouse 2-disc collector's edition. Deeply disturbing. It will scare you to death. Well, why would I want to watch a movie that's going to scare me to death? I won't be able to watch anymore.
What could they have put on 2 discs? That's what I want to know.
I don't, it's got to be what? A lot of behind the scenes stuff. Bill, do you know anything about that?
Well, I do know that one of the director's other films, I'm kind of on the spot here. It was a release for another of the director's movies, and they put Last House on Dead End Street on as an Easter egg. They didn't put it on the packaging, so maybe that one you're seeing is just a reissue of the same package, the same discs, just with different packaging.
Right. It looks like it's
I
English.
could be wrong about that.
It's got the 18 on this, so this has got to be a UK version.
Yeah,
We've got
it
that.
was
That
called
was-
Corruption. The movie that it came out as an Easter egg with was Corruption.
Right. Okay. Which, because I was going down a rabbit hole because I thought I got confused. And I'm like, wait a minute, didn't that come out in the 60s? But the Peter Cushing film, but that's not it. It's a totally different Corruption.
Most of the movies, Corruption is porn, and most of the movies that Roger Watkins made were pornography. But The
Okay.
Last House on Dead End Street just looks like a porn. There's not actual. There are some hardcore loops that were used in it because one of the actresses sued him. That's how it came to light about who made the movie. And and she was angry because I guess she thought the movie had never been released anywhere, but she saw it in a theater, and it had hardcore footage of her in it.
Oh, wow.
So she just, she sued him, or she tried to. I'm not sure if she was successful.
That's funny. We get some gore here. And then, oh, there he is, Roger Watkins.
Yeah, I don't know. That was the hardest sell for me in this film, was the idea of him as the film's villain, which there's something like Glenn Danzig about him. He just looks like a heavy metalloid guy that I went to high school with. He does not look like a deranged killer.
Oh, man. Oh, and there's his buddy there, the film. Yeah, because when I first watched this, I was like, I didn't quite get what was going on. It really was actually the second time through that I got it, But they get to where I have a feeling with like this, like with the Greek masks and stuff, that he was trying to be artsy a little bit with this film. That's why it seems disjointed, is that it was supposed to be more, at least my takeaway was, like, he wanted to make a horror movie. Yeah, he wanted graphic gore, definitely, Herschel Gordon Lewis inspired stuff, but he also wanted to give it something a little more, like having the Greek masks. I think elevates the film a little bit more than one would expect. Would you agree?
Do you want to answer that one, Chris? Did we lose him?
Charles. Oh, let me see.
Charles, sorry. Yeah, I think we lost Charles.
All right, hold on. Let me see if I can find.
But yeah, I think that it was a deliberate choice by the director to do that. And of course, everything was a deliberate choice, but I think he was reaching for something. He didn't want it was more like the packaging of violence, because you could do it the way that Craven did it and show it happening in a natural environment where something like that really might happen. People get dragged out into the woods and killed. In this one, it was more like a theatrical production. It was a gruesome murder presented as theatrics,
Right.
which is an interesting idea. It's been done, and it's also sort of like a reference to the Grand Guignol sort of theater.
Yes.
Only this was really happening, so
Yeah.
it was dangerous.
We did lose Charles. I don't know if I should resend him the invitation.
Yeah, send him the invitation again.
Okay.
Let's get him back.
But yeah, folks, if you get a chance, this movie is super, super disturbing. I'm gonna, all right, while we're, hold on. Bear with me, folks. I'm going to, oh, you know what? I don't have my Facebook open, so hold on. But I think that's thoroughly fascinating about how, just dude just happened to be walking down the street and someone said, "Hey, you were in that horror movie."
Yeah. Well, that happened on, a whole bunch of directors made movies that they didn't know ended up distributed, because that was the nature of the game. Like, depending on what happened with the film after they made it, if somebody else had a print of the film, they could have done anything they wanted with it, and it was only a problem if the director found out.
Right, right.
That happened to George Barry, the director of Deathbed, The Bed That Eats. He never knew that the movie had been released anywhere until somebody showed him a bootleg VHS copy of Deathbed, The Bed That Eats, and he was like, "Oh my God, this is my movie." And he didn't understand how it had happened, how it had gotten out there.
That's crazy. Charles, are you back?
I believe so. Can you hear me?
Yes. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
We're gonna cure that in a second.
Okay.
Well, now I'm being hypnotized.
I lost internet on my laptop, so I'm calling in on my phone, and I'm just trying to figure out how to get this to show me. And I'm almost there.
Okay, well, while you're doing that, we've got some gore here where they were like sawing the lady up.
Yeah, that's probably one of the most disturbing things I've seen in a movie.
Yeah.
The other stuff was real easy to take. Like, there was a drill murder that was pretty much, it was similar to other things I'd seen. But when they sawed the lady up on the table and took out her insides while she was still alive, that was really kind of good. I'd never seen anything like that before.
There's a whole depressing vibe to this movie, like right at the get-go, when he gets out of jail and then he decides, he's going to get back at the world and make snuff films.
I know.
And then they with the saw.
Some people are so bitter.
Oh my God. Oh, there we go. That's like wasn't it like the hoof, right? The deer hoof.
I forget what's happening there. It's been a while since I've seen this movie.
And then there's a quasi-naked lady there.
I think she's genuinely naked.
Well, I mean, the picture is not showing her, so it's quasi.
Understood.
Those masks, though, are always creepy whenever I see those in movies.
Yes, I agree with that. For some reason, those silly clear masks are freaky.
You know why? Because they don't emote. I mean, not that masks do, but I mean, they're just like they're human looking, but you can't get any emotion out of them. So that's
something's moving underneath that you can see.
Yeah,
you can. They're partially translucent, so you do see some of the person's face, but it's like, this dual image. It's bizarre.
Yeah,
and I always, for some reason, correlate those masks to home invasion movies for some reason, and I don't know why. I don't know if there is an actual home invasion film that gave me that, but for some reason, not Strangers or one of those, but there's something that in the back of my brain, there was a film somewhere, somehow, that had those, and that probably triggered the instant, creepiness that stays with us on this.
right.
I think of Alice, Sweet Alice.
Oh yeah, interesting.
Yeah, that's right.
And also, that makes me think of when I see those as an episode of the Tom Baker. Excuse me. Pardon me. The Tom Baker run on Doctor Who called Robots of Death. And I always found the robots to be scary because they didn't emote. They had sort of, stiff faces, didn't even have the translucent. It was just the face of the robot was just a human looking face, but it didn't move. The mouth didn't even move. So I always found that scary. And I was kind of correlated to those kind of masks.
So when I was off, I don't know if did you talk about the soundtrack, the music at all?
No.
I want to hear Bill's opinion on that.
Well, the music in this movie?
Yeah.
I don't really remember it.
It was so bad. I
I don't remember anything about the movie, the music from this movie.
it fit the movie. Let's put it that way.
But that probably only made it better for me. I love stuff like that. I love stuff that sounds hopelessly dated, especially 70s dated. But I also get into the groovy 60s and 50s stuff, and anything that's like, a time capsule.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
movie really does show its age, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I guess the composer was David Fanshawe, who he used a lot of Moog synthesizer pieces in this. And he also incorporated Gregorian chants and ambient noises.
Oh yeah. Now see, you made me remember.
Apparently, the soundtrack was revealed, or the score was revealed on released on vinyl in 2016. Two different labels, Vombus and Light in the Attic. I have to check that out. But did you realize that the original version of this movie was 175 minutes?
Yeah, it was like 3 hours long, and maybe even more than that. So
And
Whoa.
you mentioned the alternate title, which was the Cuckoo Clocks of Hell. That comes from Kurt Vonnegut's novel Mother Night. So I think there was definitely, because he was kind of Watkins was like a film student around the time he made this, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what he was trying to do with this movie. Is he was trying to infuse some sort of I don't know, try and make it seem more like art than it is. And I don't know if he necessarily was successful in that.
But now I see why there's a 2-disc collector set. If it ran 175 minutes, that makes sense now.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think I've seen the 175-minute version. I don't know why anybody would need the movie doesn't need to be that long.
Right. I don't know if I could sit through a 3-hour version of this movie. And not that I didn't like it, I was just so disturbed by it. It's like I felt like I had to boil myself both times after I watched it.
Had to over sanitize.
Yeah. The budget was apparently $3,000, at least according to IMDb. Oh no, I'm sorry, no, it was according to Wikipedia, so take it with a grain of salt.
Roger Watkins also, interestingly, I had to mention this. He said that he went into making porn after he made this movie,
What a shock.
and I think he said that it was a financial decision. He got offered, some decent money to go make these porn films, and he said that working with people in the porn industry was a lot more legit, or it was a lot better than working with legit films in legit films with the people that make legit movies, because the porn people were more honest. I guess
Wait, what legit films is he talking about?
anything.
Non-porn films, I guess.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, I could see that, it's not like the actors in a porn film are like demanding what their motivation is supposed to be in a given scene.
No, you're just making for the product.
Right.
Literally, it's just nothing but the product, and what's expected of you.
That's funny. All right, so let's just go around the table here. Charles, would you recommend this movie to people who may have not seen it?
Definitely not. And no redeemers. You want to, if you want to watch it and then claim it's arts, if you want to say, oh, the snuff angle, if you want to see it for boobs, it's no reason to see it. It's a waste of time, and it's just disturbing, but disturbing because it's a waste of time, not because it's what's disturbing on screen. What's on screen is just so poor between the audio, the visuals, the concept. I didn't. No, I don't recommend it.
Bill?
I wouldn't recommend it to anybody who didn't already have a predilection for grindhouse films. You're not going to go from watching even Friday the 13th which is sort of like the McDonald's of horror. You know, it's like you tell someone, "Oh, I like horror movies." Oh, you're into like Jason and Michael Myers and all those people. Like, "Hmm, yeah, I guess so." But I wouldn't recommend it to just anybody, because you have to look at it from a different point of view, as to be sort of like, well, who were the people that made this movie, to be interested in the people that made it, and just how bizarre it is. It's like a communication from another dimension.
Yeah.
So you're
So
recommending it to someone who knows what it's going to be and
yeah,
is prepared for that genre of quasi snuff grindhouse.
if you expect anything like a commercial movie, you're going to be disappointed. It's like you said, there would be no reason to watch it, because you would be just waiting for something to happen that's never going to happen.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I definitely don't think this is for, like you guys said, this is not for people who are still, finding their way through horror movies. If you're a seasoned horror goer and you survived Cannibal Holocaust, stuff like that, it's at least worth a one-time viewing. If if you're okay, if you're a Herschel Gordon Lewis fan, definitely had Herschel Gordon Lewis vibes throughout this movie.
Oh yeah, the gore is very convincing and very well done. I can see why people thought that there were real murders being committed on camera.
Right.
Remind me, I know you're going to give us your recommendation, Roger, but I remind me about I had something I wanted to say about snuff films.
Okay. Well, I pretty much just gave my recommendation. It's really for the hardcore season
Okay, yeah.
horror fans. If you looking for something that you haven't seen yet, this is probably a good one. But go ahead, Bill. Why don't you talk about snuff films?
Well, have you ever seen the movie Effects?
That played at the Riverside Drive-In, right? I
Yes.
haven't seen that one yet, actually. I couldn't find it, I think.
Highly recommended. It's on Shudder if you have Shudder, and I think there's a copy on YouTube that you can watch for free. It's a movie that was mostly obscure until the early 00s, because it was made in 1979 here in Pittsburgh by people who worked with George Romero. The director's name was Dusty Nelson. Tom Savini is an actor in it. Joe Pilato from Day of the Dead has one of the lead roles in it. And there were a lot of actors in it that came from Carnegie Mellon Drama School. It's about a director John Harrison is in it as well. And John Harrison is a director, kind of like the guy from Last House on Dead End Street. He has this idea in his head that he's going to make a snuff film. And you don't really understand the layers of deception in the film until you start. You go in at the deep end, and you have to find your way through this movie. And like once it gets towards the end, you start to see what his plan had been all along. And he was pitting all these people against each other and not telling them what was going on this movie set. But he really was making a snuff film. It was just that everybody involved in it was going to end up dead, probably. So he had to make them think they were the ones that were going to survive until the end of the movie.
What year is
79 is when it was made. It didn't actually play in any theaters until 1980. It played a couple places in Pittsburgh, or the same theater, just a couple of dates. And then it played in Tucson, Arizona. Someone picked it up for distribution, and the only place I could ever find it exhibited was in Tucson. And then it just fell off the face of the earth. It was never on home video. And there weren't even any bootlegs circulating that I'm aware of. No one saw it until like 2005.
Interesting. And just to let the people at home know, the title of the film is Effects, EFFECTS, not to be confused with the Brian Brown film F.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So I think I talked about it with Gene and George when they were on the show before you guys did that showing at the Riverside Drive-In there in Pennsylvania. So it's definitely is a unique piece of history. One thing I did like, the last thing I'll say about The Last House on Dead End Street was I liked, again, and I think one of you guys mentioned it too, it's sort of like a time capsule of the time period. And I like that aspect of the movie, in that, I love watching these 70s films, especially like when you see old New York or old Chicago or Boston, whatever, that kind of thing. But there was definitely a vibe in this film that you just don't get anymore in independent films.
Yeah, now an independent film means something totally different.
Right.
Whereas there's definitely a crude quality to the way that this film was made. That can actually be a positive thing depending on who your audience is. Because I'm attracted to that, anything that looks really crude, as long as it tells a good story, it doesn't matter how crude it is. Because you have something like Blair Witch Project, which I liked very much. It told a good story, and it told it well, even though it was just a very silly handheld camera, the way that it was filmed. So yeah, I like that about this movie, that it's not particularly well made.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so let's move on to our third film. And of course, I didn't read the synopses, but we kind of explained the other two films. I'm going to read the quick synopsis of The Children, aka The Children of Ravensback from 1980. Now, I think of the three, this is probably the most popular one, because I've seen it on TV several times, and growing up, and I know it's been around. The story follows a busload of children in a small New England town that, after being exposed to waste from a nuclear plant, are transformed into murderous atomic zombies with black fingernails who microwave any living thing they touch. I got to say, I'm going to go first on this one because like I said, I had seen it before on TV. In fact, I think I might have seen it on Elvira's show, and I always remembered it not being that good. And this time around, man, I love this movie. This was awesome, right down to the soundtrack. It was just, it was so cool. So, Bill, why don't you go ahead?
I think you saw it on Commander USA.
That's what it was.
He definitely showed it, which we didn't get that channel on my cable outfit, so I didn't see that. I didn't get in on that fun.
Oh, that's too bad. But when did you first see The Children?
I rented it on VHS. The Children was one of those movies that I just was obsessed with, even though I had never seen it. And again, another one of the reasons I do the fanzine is because I was just obsessed with looking at movies in the newspaper section, and I didn't know anything about them. I was a kid, so I couldn't go see R-rated movies, and it was really hard to get an adult to take you to an R-rated movie. You had to launch a campaign to find somebody that would do this. And being a 10-year-old horror fan, of course, I saw the TV spots for this movie, and I was like, I have to see that movie. What could this movie be about? It wasn't real obvious what was going to happen in the film when you saw the TV spots. It was just like kids walking around with a glazed look in their eyes. You're like, what do they do? So that was why I was obsessed with it, and I rented it in the 80s once I finally, could get R-rated movies without actually going to the theater, because the mom and pop video stores didn't give a shit. They would rent it to you even if it was rated R.
I've mentioned this before. My parents always took me to horror movies, and I'm surprised we didn't actually see this movie, because this is right up our alley. They would have taken me to see this. Charles, what did you think? When did you first see the Children?
I could have sworn I saw it on USA Night Flight or whatever, that overnight where they
Up
used
all
to
night?
Maybe. But now that we're talking, it was probably a VHS rental. And at the time, I was like, there was Village of the Damned. There was a bunch of these kid, are going to be the killers type movies for whatever reason, whether it was a fog that got into them, or radiation. I loved this. I don't know if I loved it the first time as much as I loved it now, like you said, but might have been a good timing also, because a few nights earlier I saw that movie with Nicolas Cage called Mom and Dad.
Oh yeah.
Where it's the opposite. It's the parents just start killing the kids. And here it's the kids who are just killing everyone who loves them. And so it was a good timing. It gave me like a thematic week of the parents killing the kids and then the kids killing the parents. But yeah, you know, I saw this in the order of these three movies in the order of how they came out. And I saw that each movie had better production values as we went. And each movie had a better soundtrack as we went. You know, none of them necessarily had great acting, you know, but the kids didn't have to act. What did they have to do? They had to walk around like little zombie killers and then, you know, and then nuke whoever they could hug. Which is just a great concept, you know, whoever you love, just nuke them. And they're out of, yeah, I really enjoyed it. And, you know, did this have any other titles though?
No, mainly the children. Roger mentioned it was the Children of Ravensback, I think,
Yeah.
in the UK.
I don't remember it as that. I remember it only as the children. But I was just curious because I don't remember it playing in the theaters at all. And I didn't know it was in the theaters as a different name.
No, it was always the children, and the ad campaign was pervasive. I don't know how you escaped it. It was, well, maybe it just didn't play in your area. Where are you from?
Connecticut.
Connecticut. It was in Hartford, definitely.
Yeah, so Hartford was like another country to us, you know, growing up.
Oh, okay.
Haven, it's your New Haven theaters. If you're Bridgeport, it's Bridgeport. And then if you're Hartford, it's like three different states completely. So not necessarily, but yeah, it probably did. It's not likely that would have played in Hartford and not played New Haven.
Yeah, see, I think it would have played in the Boston area. I'm just surprised I didn't get a chance to. I mean, 1980 was a big year. What we had Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Clash of the Titans, and you know, a lot. Empire Strikes Back, a lot of films. So I'm surprised we were in the movies like every week those years. Yep. So, but this was directed by Max Kalmanowitz, who directed a film that I never heard of called Dreams Come True from '84. But it sounds interesting. When I read the premise, it sounded pretty cool. Are you familiar with that at all, Bill?
I haven't seen Dreams Come True, but I know that was sort of like one of his dream projects.
No,
Dreams Come True. I watched the bonus features on the Children Blu-ray, so that's the only way that I ever heard about Dreams Come True.
Yeah, that looks interesting. And then let's get into the cast a little bit here. We've got Martin Shakar, who played John Fremont. He was I forgot, he was in Saturday Night Fever. He was one of Travolta's little buddies there.
Wasn't he his cousin or his brother, Martin Shakar?
I think so, yeah. I can't remember now. I have to watch that again. That's one of my top 20 movies. I love Saturday Night Fever. He was also in Invasion USA with Chuck Norris. And then we had Gil Rogers played Sheriff Billy Hart. He was in Luther the Geek. That was that's one that I've never seen. I don't know if I could sit through that one.
Luther the Geek.
You guys familiar with that movie?
No.
I rented it.
Huh?
I rented it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did.
Was it any good?
I don't remember. I don't remember anything about it.
For those watching who don't know, the original term, the original definition of the word geek was basically like a sideshow guy that would bite the head of a live chicken off.
Right
in front of the audience.
Yeah. It was the lowest of the lows for a carny when he had to be the geek in the troupe, right?
Which that reminds me of the scene I meant to bring up in The Bride, where Helen finds the chicken head on the pillow next to her. Not only does she pick it up with her bare hands, she brings it to the bathroom and throws it in the sink, and then realizes she needs to use the sink. So instead of throwing it in the trash barrel, she tosses it into the tub.
Yeah, I don't know why she didn't flush it down the toilet personally, but I guess she wanted to leave it for David to see when he got home.
Maybe she was going to put it in her scrapbook. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then we've got Gail Garnett played Kathy Fremont. She did a voice in Mad Monster Party. And she was in My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Well, she was better known as a pop star.
Really?
Gail Garnett. She was the one who had that hit, "We'll Sing in the Sunshine."
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
That was Gail Garnett.
The one, yeah.
Yeah,
Bill, you know, my friend Michael that's been on our show
Yeah.
a few times, he never knew that Rex Smith, who played Street Hawk, was a one-hit wonder from the 70s.
he's too young.
He's my age.
I was reaching there for something.
Rex Smith was also Pirates of Penzance. I mean, he has a lot of good credits.
Solid Gold.
Solid Gold.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I always remembered him from that. Well, that and Street Hawk, because I loved Street Hawk, even though it was cheesy. But anyways, we're off track here. Joy Glockham played Susie McKenzie. She was in The Prowler, which is one I haven't seen in a long time. I'm gonna have to revisit that one. I remember that's pretty bad. Like not bad. I mean, a bad movie, but it's like pretty nasty, isn't it?
It's brutal. It's
Yeah.
some of Savini's best makeup effects.
Yeah. Was he in that one? Savini?
But no, he doesn't have a role in this. You mean The Prowler?
Yeah.
No, he doesn't have a role.
Okay. Because I always get that confused with the one that was it the New York Ripper or
Maniac.
Maniac. Yeah.
He's one of the victims in Maniac.
I want to share with you that I was in a film with Tom Savini
Really?
called The Sadist. I play the dad. Savini plays the sadist. We don't have any scenes together, but if you play the trailer for The Sadist, I'm the first voice you hear.
Nice.
And it's my son in the movie who goes out on this hunting expedition with his uncle, and unfortunately they come in contact with Savini. And just like I mentioned, Theodore Bickel, when I brought up 200 Motels, when I brought up to Savini that we were in the same movie together, he just like the thought of that movie just repulsed him. So I don't know. I'm going to stop telling stars which movies I like of theirs or which movies I'm in with them.
It seems like you're having bad luck in that department.
Yeah.
That you confused me for a second there too, because I was thinking of The Sadist with Arch Hall Jr. But
No,
obviously that was like the 50s.
There's two films of the same name,
Yeah.
Different sadist.
much more current. It had a different working title, and for some reason they changed it to The Sadist.
Interesting.
Now you have to watch that to see me in it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm gonna have to check that out. So I'm gonna switch over to our newspaper ads first, which I thought I had. Oh wait a minute. Here's the poster for the film. The children. It does have a Village of the Damned vibe there.
Yeah, it sure does.
Well, because they messed with their eyes for one thing.
Yeah,
That doesn't happen in the film.
right. That's true. And then okay, so what do we got here, Bill?
This is from Pittsburgh, from August 1980. It actually started playing theaters in June of 1980, but Pittsburgh didn't get it till August. One of those regional releasing schemes that they had, or they only had so many prints of the film to circulate. So instead of flooding the market at once, they would just move them from city to city.
Pray you never meet them is not exactly the grab you by the throat tagline.
Something terrifying has happened to the children. And I love that you can't get any information about what you're going to see when you go to see the children from this ad.
That's good.
There are bits and pieces of the movie, all little clues all in there.
Yeah.
But nowhere in there does it say, well, they touch people and they turn into roast beef in 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's some good marketing right there. And like you said, I think it was you, Bill, that said that the trailer, you couldn't even tell what the movie was about.
Yeah. It's very vague.
We've got this one playing with the orphan. And this is, where is this one from, Bill? Oh, Indianapolis.
Yeah, that's from Indianapolis. And The Orphan is an interesting movie. That's another obscure killer kid film. It was also known as Friday the 13th.
Oh,
And this was in 79. This was a whole year before Friday the 13th came out. So they had, someone had to pay somebody to use that title, I'm pretty sure.
Wow. Yeah, a couple of things I wanted to bring up about this movie too was one was I was watching it in the living room during the day, and my grandson, who's 6 years old, was sitting there playing on his tablet or something while we were watching it, and um he, like, right near the beginning, he looks up at me and he's like, "Pops, that music sounds like Jason music." I was like, "Good ear, man. That's Harry Manfredini. I'm so proud."
Very astute. Yeah, this was another film that Harry Manfredini scored, and a few of the cues are identical
Yes.
to cues used in Friday the 13th. They're not all totally alike, but there is at least one or two that I can identify that are directly, you can hear them in either movie exactly the same way.
Oh yeah, even like the doody doody doody, the music. I can't do it, but it was definitely no, this movie, I'm trying to remember because I looked it up, but I didn't write it down, of course, in my notes. But I think this movie came out 2 months before Friday the 13th. Is that correct?
No, it came out right, I think a month after.
Month
Friday the
after.
13th
Okay.
was May 1980, and this came out in June.
Right. Okay. I had him backwards, but yeah. So it was pretty close. So he must have been Manfredini must have been like, I'll just reuse what I did on the Friday the 13th. Oh my God. So I wanted to switch over to let's see. There we go. Where we were before when I clicked on it erroneously. And there's the hot chick on the bike.
What was wrong with our young marshal, our young sheriff? He wanted nothing to do with this girl, and she was throwing herself at him.
Oh, the deputy? Yeah.
Deputy.
Well, I think they were in a relationship, like they were seeing each other, and he didn't want to make it public. I think that was their issue, was that he didn't want her coming up to him when he was working, so that other people would be like, "Oh, yeah."
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that might make sense. Yeah.
And there's our main character there, who I thought him and the sheriff were brothers. They seemed like they were brothers, but they had different last names, so I don't know.
They're not brothers.
Just buds.
Yeah, they end up, the last two survivors, if you will, of the film, and Gail Garnett as well. Yeah, that woman that was covering up her breasts with something, a towel. That's a good indicator of what this movie really is. This film is more of a parody than anything else, and it's about children who, whether consciously or unconsciously, they've been transformed into these little instruments of revenge that go out after all of their parents, who are all terrible parents in one way or another. Every single parent in this movie is guilty of doing something horrible. But this woman's deal is that she and her husband are like these two vacuous people who are like, they act all pretentious, and they have all these pretentious friends over to boil lobsters. By the way, they're eating lobster when they're visited by a murderous children denizen who fries them. I don't think you ever see. I assume it was their daughter. Usually, it's whoever, whatever household that child belonged to. They go there and murder the people there, and she doesn't even care that her daughter is missing.
Right.
She's like, "Oh, how exciting!
Not at all.
A kidnapping here in Ravensback. How exciting!"
Yeah.
And she's got the muscle bound guy there, right? That's the scene where he's just standing there
Yeah.
lifting weights.
Her husband, I guess. I mean, I assume that's the father, and he's standing there not paying attention to anything, lifting weights.
Crazy.
But there's also all these other people. There's a lesbian couple, Dr. Gould and her partner Leslie Button.
Hmm.
And I don't know what's wrong with Leslie, but Dr. Gould keeps her stoned on codeine, because she's like sitting at a piano, barely aware. It's her child by birth, and I for Tommy, and Tommy is actually the first transformed child that we see, and she's the first victim that we see. Like encounters him in a cemetery, and he runs up to her and embraces her and turns her into roast beef in 30 seconds. And but they're like, this couple that are raising a child, and she's keeping the mother stoned on pills. Um, Even the sheriff buddy, Martin Shakar, that we talked about, his wife is Gail Garnett, and Gail Garnett is pregnant and she smokes. And she also speeds past a school bus, which is a big no-no.
Right.
So she deserves it too.
Right. See, all right. I did not get that relationship that the chick at the piano. I thought it was her daughter.
No, that's Dr. Gould there in the
Yeah.
bikini, and her partner is Leslie Button. They're like a lesbian couple raising Leslie's son.
Oh, okay. And there's the sheriff. Yeah. Okay. That's
She's
funny.
like, just take your pills, everything will be okay.
Yeah. I thought the blonde was her daughter. Okay. That makes sense.
No,
That's funny. The
they
sheriff.
also have a dog that gets fried, by the way, a
That's right.
Doberman.
Yeah.
This movie does not, it's uncompromising. It doesn't flinch to show
No.
you the reality of atomic zombie children.
The
You know
dangers.
what? And it's one of those where you feel more bad about the dog getting, fried than any of the parents.
Right. So
That's Jenny. That's Gail Garnett's older child.
okay.
They have two and one on the way in the film. There's Jenny and Clarky, who escaped becoming an atomic zombie because he was sick that day and stayed home from school.
Right. Was there only 5 kids? I always remembered it
Yeah.
being like a busload of them, and then I'm watching it and I was like, wait a minute, I thought there was more.
They only had the budget for 5.
That makes sense. And there's the sheriff. Yep.
One of the worst sheriffs that
I
you've
know.
seen.
This-
She didn't have much to do, this character, the waitress.
yeah.
Her scenes were mostly cut from the version of the children that we saw on home video. I don't know if she made it to the theatrical version or not, but most of her scenes were cut. The new Blu-ray restoration that came out a couple years ago from Vinegar Syndrome restored a couple of her scenes, including this one where she's talking to the sheriff in the diner.
Oh, okay. Oh, interesting.
I think she had a death scene too, because there's a lobby card of her screaming, and there's never a reason in the movie for her to scream. So there's a scene somewhere where she encounters either a child or a victim.
Or,
Wow.
or the sheriff finally takes her up on her advances, and then she screams at that. That's more like,
Yeah, she wasn't expecting, she didn't sign on for this. Okay.
Yeah, it did seem like a subplot that they left dangling, because she was literally left waiting for him. He was supposed to pick her up, but then of course, things got
Yeah.
crazy. Which I love movie characters or TV show characters that, they're dating a cop, and then they get pissed when the cop has to stand them up because he's got to do his job.
Yeah, come on. You know what you're getting into.
Oh man. And there of course is the logo.
Look at that claw.
I
That's a
know.
bizarre choice.
I know. What is that? That's weird.
they must have had graphics for the cauldron and just repurposed it.
I can see it. I can really see it.
That's a right. It does look more like a sword and the sorcerer kind of logo.
It's very bird-like.
Yeah. Oh, and there's even a claw up here too.
It sure is.
Weird. I wonder if maybe in the original concept, the kids, instead of black fingernails, they were supposed to have claws and then they couldn't afford it.
Good question.
And we got the great Buick. Love that car.
That's from the beginning. Oh, that's another person that goes wrong in this town. These two guys that work in a nuclear facility, they're like, you think we should check the facility some more? And they're like, hell no, let's get out of here. Let's go have a beer.
Guys,
And lo and behold, yeah.
they could have been such better characters with a little more time. I mean, that could have been an Abbott and Costello-ish, two goofy comic, slime balls. They look like brothers or twins or hillbillies, rednecks that really didn't go anywhere. They could have had a lot more fun with those two guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that though. I like, yeah, fuck it. Let's get out of here.
So cynical.
Sheriff again. Oh, there's this guy.
Yeah. This was
Oops. Sorry.
the disco pimp character
That's right.
that shows up for I mean, he has no reason to be in the movie at all.
Right.
Sanford Butler Jones was his name.
And there
The
was
character.
the dude in the back seat was is that who you're talking about? Oh, the driver.
Yeah, the dude in the back seat, not the guy
Okay.
in the front that looks like Tarantino.
Right. Yeah.
He's just the chauffeur.
Explain that to me with the window going up and down and him say, what purpose did that serve?
Comic relief. I think that guy was the coke dealer, Martin Brennan, who plays the disco guy in the back seat. He was somebody's coke dealer, and he wanted to be in the movie, and that's what they came up with for him to do.
Oh, that's hilarious.
That makes sense.
And then we've got her. She was
Gil Garnett.
yeah. Horrified.
She has the most annoying character in the film because Martin Shakar for some reason refuses to tell her what's happening, even though her life may be at stake. and she's just so dumb throughout the whole movie. I'm like, would you please tell her everything you know?
And then here we go, the chick in the graveyard, as you mentioned.
Dr. Gould gets fried.
Fried.
I love it. She gets nuked and her dentures stayed perfect.
Yeah. So some of these pictures are repeats. Oh, there we go. Scary Child.
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah. That's a cool shot. Oh yeah, and this he walks out the door and he sees his wife getting fried and he screams and runs.
Their crime is alcoholism.
Right.
The mother's a lush and she's like passed out on the couch.
Yeah.
Yeah, there she is.
Yeah.
Oh, then we got the goofy bus driver. We never saw what happened to him, right?
Oh yeah, he's fried in the cemetery.
Oh, right. Okay.
We don't see it happen on camera. Dr. Gould finds the body when she dies right next to it.
Right.
That's where Tommy jumps out and he's like, Joyce.
What era was that when the parents find out, yeah, the bus driver, he probably took them for a ride somewhere.
Yeah, and no one cared. Like,
I love it. It's acceptable. They went to the zoo. I don't know. Maybe they went to film a film. Who knows what they did? But who cares? It's the goofy bus driver. He'll take them on a ride.
Now, this guy in the right here, he was in The Thing. I meant to look up his name because I forgot. He was in Carpenter's The Thing.
Chris Elliott.
No, looks like him. It was hold on, it's coming up here. Peter Maloney. He was Bennings. He was the first one, I think, to get transformed in The Thing.
Well,
It's funny about that movie that all those actors from The Thing I keep seeing them in all kinds of other stuff. Like Richard Mazer is all over the place, and but yeah, as soon as I saw him, I was like, oh my god, it's Bennings. All right, and there's the muscle bound dude with the porn stash. He's just standing there where he doesn't even, like you said, Bill, he's just oblivious to everything, not paying attention. And then they repeat a lot of them. Oh, and that's her. Now she's a monster. You can tell by the black fingernails.
mm-hmm.
And then he looks shocked. He looks like Andy, what's his name? Andy Kaufman. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then we got her, the lady in the store who gets her shotgun. I love that. And then the kid. Oh, and there he is. The drug dealer.
Mhm.
Did we lose Bill? Bill, are you still here? Uh-oh.
Oh, well.
We lost Bill. Hold on. All right, I'm going to stop the share so I can. Oh, no, he stepped away. Okay. So, well, you know what? Let's go back to this for a second here and see if there's any more. We've got, oh, there's deputy dog. Like does not care that he's got to do his job.
I know.
Oh man. And then all these cute little kids, and they go around killing people and nuking them with their bare hands. Love it. There she is again. Oh, and there's the chick. She's pissed now that the deputy's got to go off. Save the
Yeah.
town. But excuse me. Yeah, overall, I mean, this movie, I thought it was well directed, well shot. You know, look at all these scenes, how nicely they're composed. You know, there's so
Sorry,
many.
I ducked out there for a second.
That's okay. We're just kind of quickly going through the pictures. I was just saying how I love how this film is well directed. It's well shot. I mean, these scenes are just so amazingly composed, you know?
Oh, that was
Yeah.
Barry Abrams. He's the same guy that shot Friday the 13th.
Oh, interesting.
That was another crossover. And he also shot one of those like another Sean Cunningham film, A Stranger Is Watching. That's what it was
Okay.
called.
Oh, yeah.
The calls are coming from in the house.
He wishes that something like that had been in A Stranger Is Watching.
I always get those two confused.
No, you're thinking of When a Stranger Calls,
Right. Yeah.
which has the best intro of any movie in history.
But
It's okay to tune out after that happens.
Yeah. After Charles Durning is
Yeah.
at the door.
but yeah, I mean,
Oh, there's the body of the bus driver.
right. Yeah, there he is.
Which she falls over because what? He's not. You can't see this guy here.
Yeah.
That was funny. And her falling over him because he's not there. He's not there. There's nothing to fall over. And then, whoops, there's a body. I just fell over it.
Yeah.
You weren't there, Charles, okay?
All right.
I mean, this is just a fun movie, you know.
Fun.
Once it picks up, man, it doesn't let you go.
It also, as a parent, maybe it also gives you that. What would you do? What do you do when your kid is obviously something's wrong and they're coming at you with their hands out? How do you not hug and kiss them? How do you not, even when you at the next step, when you know they're killers, do you kill them? Do you kill your own kid? If you want to take it to that cerebral level, there's a whole nother, a subtext to that.
Yeah, that's true. Or you could just pour another glass of whiskey.
Like, as most of us would, yeah.
If you weren't drinking the whiskey, your child wouldn't have black fingernails.
What's the one? Oh, there's the little kid who was out sick, so he didn't turn into a monster.
Clarky, he ends up a victim,
Right.
which is a bold move. This movie does kill a lot of children.
Sure does.
I was gonna say something, but yeah, there's something about too the way they have the kids smiling and stuff that just adds to the creep factor.
Definitely.
It's funny, like when you watch a movie like this, or we just watched Child's Play the other day with my grandson, and when you think about it, like when I first saw Child's Play, it's like Chucky's a doll, just kick him across the room.
Yeah.
Oh, these are little kids, just kill them. But in the context of the film, they don't know what's happening. They don't know if these kids have a radioactive touch or anything. So on that level, you could imagine people going, well, why don't they just kill them all? Well, they don't know.
Yeah, until it's too late.
Yeah.
The one that annoys me the most is her. Oh, I'm so glad you pulled her picture up right when I said that. Mabel, who runs the local general store. And you know, the thing she does wrong is she accepts poached animals.
Oh, that's right.
Right.
That's her sin that she gets punished for. But she's like, you know, she's the bus driver's wife,
Right.
and she runs the local general store, and she knows that something is wrong. The children are missing, and they show up smiling at her through the window. She's like, "Oh, look, it's the children."
Yeah.
And she runs out, of course, and is fried off camera. Unfortunately, we don't see her death.
Right. And it's too bad too, because she grabs her shotgun. She was prepared.
Yeah, she could have taken care of the whole problem right there.
Right.
So if we're justifying the parents because they're such bad parents or bad adults, and that's why they're getting it, a la maybe the Saw movies, which
Yeah.
I just saw a movie which is exactly the justification of rich people being killed. I don't know if you guys have seen The Menu yet.
No.
I haven't seen it yet.
There. If we're continuing this particular theme that we're talking about, that's the next step in it.
Mhm.
Is that the one with Ray Fiennes?
It is.
Oh,
It is.
I didn't know it was a horror movie. It didn't look like one. I just thought it was like a culinary film.
It's definitely a culinary film, and it's a horror movie. Yes.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to check that one out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we got bikini clad chick again. I think some of these are all repeating. Oh, there we go. Scary. Scary.
Oh, that's where she smokes a cigarette, and she's
Yes.
like
Yeah.
8 months and 27 days pregnant.
Jeez. I love the next scene. I love the through the window shot.
Yeah.
You're right. So many of these were actually well framed,
Yeah.
well executed shots, and I didn't realize it watching it, but seeing it here, you know, isolated, the sum of the parts really equaled the whole. It was I really enjoyed this, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely think this is an underrated film because, like I said, my memory of it was that it wasn't that good, but
Mhm.
it was a fun ride. I really enjoyed it. She is having more whiskey.
Well, it's just so it's really stupid. I mean, let's be honest, it's a really stupid movie. At least the premise.
Yeah.
Because you know, like these children go through a radioactive cloud and all of a sudden they have black fingernails and can fry people alive when they touch them. And they're zombies because you can shoot them and nothing happens.
But
But
it only applies to kids, because if you're
Yeah.
you're a wacky bus driver, it's not going to affect you.
yeah, and the only way to kill the children zombies is to cut off their hands.
Right. Right.
Which they found out by accident, right? It's just
And I love that sound that it makes when you do it. It's like "Rrrr."
But we know that it's got to be both hands, not just one.
right.
Right, yeah. Crucial information that unfortunately results in the death of one character.
Now, not to plug my book, the book of top 10 horror lists, because far be it from me to ever try to get an extra plug in. But one of my chapters from one of the people is favorite top 10 moments in creepy kid movies.
Oh, nice.
And the children isn't in here. You know, I
Charles,
went back. I didn't write it. And it's got, you know, Village of the Damned. It's got Grace. It's Alive. The Omen. Let the Right One In. The Good Son. Orphan. And Joshua. But it didn't have this one. And I think maybe I need to write to the person who gave me the top 10 list and say, hey, you really needed to include.
what's wrong with you?
Oh man. So Bill, would you recommend this movie to people?
Absolutely. If you haven't seen The Children, you don't know what you're missing.
Charles?
See it with your children. Yeah, see it. Don't give them ideas though, but definitely, yeah, it's totally
Yeah.
recommend. My favorite of the three, sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I said, it was well shot, well made. I mean, the soundtrack, of course, is basically Friday the 13th, but that adds to it. It's funny because on a slight tangent, the reason we watched Child's Play was we were going to go see that new movie, Megan. And my wife is like, no, it's too scary for him. It's too scary for him. And I'm like, well, let's watch Chucky first. And if he can survive that, he kind of survived it, but about halfway through, he was like, I don't want to watch this anymore. I'm like, don't worry, you'll be fine. And then we watched this one, and it was like nothing to him. Like this is a good one you can throw on. There is that one shot of boobs in it, but beyond that, this is like, I want to say it's on the level in terms of not. I mean, it's much scarier than the movie The Car, but for some reason in my mind, they're sort of on the same wavelength in terms of being horror movies. You know what I mean?
That's very astute, because The Car is another ridiculous movie.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely ridiculous, but it's scary while you're watching it. It's a very slick thriller.
Yeah.
You referred to the Friday the 13th music as for this film. One of the films, and I can't remember which one, and I think it was The Bride, had a psycho. Was it The Bride? One of those three definitely had a Bernard Herrmann thing in it, and it jumped out at me when I saw it, and I wanted to make a note of which film it was, and of course I'm forgetting now, but it definitely had that in it. So when you bring up the Friday 13th for this, one of the other ones also was borrowing from another classic.
Right.
It had to have been The Bride, because I don't think Last House on Dead End Street did that.
No, that just had dissonance, Moog dissonance.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this one didn't have the did it?
No.
Didn't have any of that stuff.
No. But it was just the violins and the dun, 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 that.
Yeah, that's what it had, like that.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm surprised he was able to copy his own music and get away with it.
It was his.
That's true.
If he didn't complain about it to himself, well, who was going to say anything?
Well, I would imagine, I was thinking between the studios, if one studio's putting out one movie and one studio's putting out the other, and he's kind of put almost identical music in both.
Yeah.
I didn't know if there would have been backlash, but there wasn't. So, all right, folks. Well, that was super fun. I definitely recommend The Children, and if you haven't seen it, you should definitely check it out. I recommend all three, with the exception of Last House on Dead End Street. You really got to be more hardcore horror fan. But if you come back and you're watching this at a later point, you're not watching it live, please put your comments in either our YouTube page or our Fright Lounge Facebook group. So Facebook page, I should say, so we can get your take on these films. So Charles, once again, where can the viewers find you online?
If they want to come on one of our Transylvania trips, come with us to a Dracula tour, a vampire vacation, www.dractours.com. We do the Salem Paranormal Conventions. We do the Connecticut Paranormal Conventions. But again, I'd love to come on again as we're getting closer to those and give a reason, for me coming back and promote those. But for the books, the book of top 10 horror lists, where 100 celebrities give their top 10 favorite lists, which most of them are good, except that one guy who left out the children, is available from www.bookofTop10, the number 10 horrorlists.com. And my latest book, which is a really regional, but if you love ghost stories, you're going to love it. It's True Ghost Stories of Connecticut. And that's available from www.paranormalconnecticut.com. Spelled out the words paranormal and Connecticut.com.
Awesome. Bill?
You can find my stuff at driveinasylum.com, or if you want to look for my Etsy shop on Etsy, just search Groovy Doom. The brand new issue of Drive-In Asylum fanzine is now available. It's number 24 in my consecutively numbered cycle. There's also 6 specials of Drive-In Asylum. So, we've done over 30 issues so far, or maybe this is the 30th, I'm not sure. We've got great features in this, 2 interviews with folks from the cast and crew of Scream Bloody Murder, the director, Robert J. Emery, and the female lead, Marlena Lustig. Both fantastic people. They were so nice to talk to me. Scream Bloody Murder is an obscure horror film made in Tampa, also known as My Brother Has Bad Dreams. It's sort of like a psycho riff type thing. There was another movie called Scream Bloody Murder that came out about a guy who has a hook for a hand and kills people. It's not that one. It's a different one.
And it's not My Brother Has Bad Breath. It's not that one either, right?
No, that was the sequel. It was about another tragic family. This one, cursed with halitosis. But no, the other fantastic feature in this issue is an interview with George Barry, the director of Deathbed, The Bed That Eats. George reached out to Sam, actually, Sam Panico. He saw a review that Sam wrote of Deathbed online. And he wrote him, he's like, hey, thanks for saying that stuff about my movie. And they got to talking. Sam did an interview, and shockingly, George passed away maybe like a week after he talked to Sam.
Oh.
And this is George's last interview about Deathbed. And he was just a really interesting character. Sam and I are both really sad. This, of course, we didn't know him personally, but we were getting to know him, and he sent me some nice stuff and personally autographed it for me. I didn't even get a chance to talk to him because normally I reach out to everyone who's in the fanzine at least once, even if I didn't do the interview, just to tell them who we are and what we do. So that's in there. We've also got a new contributor named Steve Wilson wrote a review of Jeff Lieberman's movie Blue Sunshine, about acid, people that did acid in the 60s, and then in the 70s they have flashbacks and start freaking out and killing people. Fantastic film. Steve talked to Jeff Lieberman at a convention and got some tidbits about Blue Sunshine. So there's a little bit of a Jeff Lieberman interview in there too.
Nice.
So you can go pick that up on Etsy. Check out the rest of my social media and my blog. You can link to all those things via driveinasylum.com.
And Bill, did you previously, or did I mishear this? Didn't you interview Robin Strasser at one point?
No, I never interviewed Robin. I would love to talk to her, but like I said, I don't think she likes to talk about the bride.
Right. Okay. All right, folks. And if you haven't had a chance, check out my website too. It's havenpodcasts.com, where you'll find my other shows, The East Meets the West, where we talk about spaghetti films and Shaw Brothers Kung Fu movies, as well as Then Is Now podcast and the Cult Movie Lounge. And again, those can all be found at havenpodcasts.com. So one other thing, just please, if you want, check out these films and that we talked about tonight. If you haven't seen them, and come back to our video post. I'm going to repost it, of course, with the intro and the outro attached, hopefully soon, and leave us some comments. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys, or having you guys see us, I guess, next month.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.